Hello, it's Doris with Aldi Books, and I'm here for Friday Reads on a Friday. So, yay, not even belated this week. And perfect timing to just wrap up June. So, I have 3 more books that I finished in the month of June that I haven't talked about yet. And then I just wanted to touch on the month in general. It was a much better reading month than I have had in quite a while, since February. February was the last time I read into double digits. So I'm back and happy about it. So jumping right in, let's just start with the best, because August Town by Kai Miller is the best. This is another book that I think will be in my top 10 for the year. I can't imagine that it won't be, because it's just a brilliant piece of writing. I just thought it was, dare I say, perfectly written. Yeah. It's set in August Town, Jamaica, and centers around a little Rastafarian boy, like 7 years old, I think, whose dreadlocks are cut off in the course of the school day by his teacher. But it flows around all of these characters. The central character, I would say, is the grandmother, Ma Taffy, and her voice is just beautiful. But then you hear from her adopted daughter, Gina, who's actually her niece. You hear from the principal in the school teacher that cuts the hair. So many different characters. And a couple of things that Kai Miller does really well is this book is so intelligently written. Every now and then he just zings you with the perfect word choice. And you guys know I love perfect word choices. Just he comes across with these really intelligent words that perfectly fit the moment, but he doesn't bog you down with them. They just come at the right moment. And then, like I said, he's got all of these characters, and the story floats around in time, just here and there, but you're never lost. Somehow he floats around in time and through characters, and I always knew where I was and who I was with. I don't know how he did that, but it was really effortless. The story was just very poignant, and it really struck home really deeply, in a way that, from my perspective, I would never experience outside of literature. But just how difficult it is to escape poverty in oppression, like in an oppressed and prejudiced situation. Really handled that well as well. But I was charmed by the story. I listened to this on audiobook, and it's not like, I don't want to deceive you. This is a very beautiful book, but it's very heartbreaking and poignant. But it was so charming as well. The voices of some of these characters, like Ma Taffy especially. But I listened to it on audiobook, and Karen also told me to make sure I get Donna Kroll, and let me tell you, that is the way to go. Kai Miller also writes the voices really well, and you just get a feel for the island through the voices of the characters and their accents and inflections and dialects. But Donna Kroll was a brilliant narrator. So highly recommend this. I know some people don't like a lot of viewpoints. They don't like floating around in time. It does have a wee touch of magical realism, but I don't think that would even bother Sean. It was so brief and fitting. But I highly recommend this book. I absolutely loved it so very much. Then I read another Billy Collins. This is the poet laureate. Couple rounds of being a poet laureate. I read one earlier in the month and liked it, but didn't love it. This one really worked much better for me. I mentioned that his books thematically just didn't trigger anything, emotionally or intellectually in that other collection. This one did. The last section, or part 4, I believe, he focused a lot on aging and death, and just really, I connected with it. It was very interesting and thought-provoking and beautiful. But his style is very simple and straightforward and down to earth, but very nuanced at the same time. So he's very clever in being able to keep it simple, but at the same time very nuanced. So yeah, I wouldn't mind reading. I think Heidi from My Reading Life has read one that had more nature focus, so I might try to pick that up at some point. And then, the nature segue, I finished Diary of a Young Naturalist by Dara McAnulty. This one was for the Book Naturalists book club, and this is just another one that's going to be on my top 10 for the year. This was written by, I think he was 14, this is set during his 14th year, so I think this is perhaps the foundation, his journals from his 14th year, but he is currently 17, so he may have, polished it and written it more when he was 15 or turning 16. I don't know the timeline, but regardless, young man and just a brilliant future ahead of him. I mean to tell you. So, Dara McAnulty is on the autism spectrum. He and I believe he said his mother and both of his siblings as well. Extremely tight-knit family, focused on nature. They are very much about getting out in nature, especially on the weekends, together as a family, and it is beautiful, so beautiful. I vlogged this book last week, so if you haven't seen that vlog and you want to hear more about the book, I read several passages from it, and also Heidi from My Reading Life has a review up on it. If you haven't seen that, I'll try to link both those below. But yeah, he's very clever with sprinkling in tiny bits of nature that he sees, like specific biological aspects of the world that he's in, but they're not heavy-handed. So if you're not familiar with the nature he's talking about, you don't feel lost or like you have to look everything up. I mean, you might be triggered to, but he does really well with that, and sprinkling in environmental issues, but again in a very accessible way that fits into his narrative. And so his narrative is, he begins in the spring, I believe, and just spring, summer, fall, and winter of his 14th year, and moving home. They move house, and how difficult that is for him, and how he comes out of that. It's very joy-filled at times, very he doesn't back away from sharing his moments of anxiety and bullying, depression, the spectrum of emotions that any teenager actually would go through. But he has things that he wants to say about it, and it's just a gorgeous marrying of teenage years, family times, nature writing, concerns about education and the environment, but in such an approachable, engaging manner that you don't feel ever like you're being beat on the head or inundated. It's just effortlessly fabulous. It's just really, this book is so much. And I think I shared this in my vlog, but my closing thought with this book was to share your passions with your children. I'm very admiring of Dara himself, but of his mom and dad too, for the way that, you know, they chose to parent him. Great read. So yeah, I think I read, let's see, I don't even know what else I want to say here. Thanks again to Greystone Press for sending me The Heartbeat of Trees. This is by Peter. I've forgotten how to pronounce his name. Wolleben, I think. I read his earlier work about, you know, The Secret Life of Trees, I believe, about the network and the fungi communication among trees, but really enjoyed that. Thanks again, Greystone. To wrap up Caribathon, Dominicana, I really enjoyed. And then, you know, Augusttown was brilliant. So brilliant. Pride Month, I read American Dreamer, which was the romance, which also was Caribathon reading. But my favorite of that would be Heartstopper, the graphic novels. I read volume 1 and volume 2, and I'm on the wait list for volume 3 because it was just delightful, just delightful. Another nature read, The Language of Butterflies by Wendy Williams. This was a great reading month. Yeah, all about butterflies, but, you know, just really neat anecdotes about, like the second half, you learned so many neat things about the monarch butterfly and the little blue hair streak butterflies, and just different things that you wouldn't normally hear, you know, everywhere. I'm almost done with my Cuban projects. I finished Finding Mañana, a memoir of a Cuban exodus by Mirta Ojito. This one was about the Marian boat lift in the 80s. Enjoyed that as well. She's a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. So I have one more to finish, and then I'll wrap Cuba up. The Botany of Desire. This one was my least favorite of my nature writing this month. I think Johnny Appleseed just bored me to death, but the tulip was really super interesting. And you know, marijuana, I actually folded down something there, so it must have been good. Anyway, potatoes, that's in there too. And then Honey and Venom, Confessions of an Urban Beekeeper by Andrew Cody. This was great too. Great reading month. This was more of a memoir as well. Lots of love for his dad, who taught him beekeeping, his grandfather. He's the 3rd generation. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. Fingers crossed July is just as successful. It should be, because I'm off work again most of the month. Yay. Summer vacation for public school teachers, am I right? Anyway, yeah. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon. Bye.